Thinking. Hello.
Good morning.
How is everybody doing today? I am Cindy Deane on cindeane music page here on Horn Talk, tips, tricks, and licks, and we're doing a series with musicians that have other businesses. And today, my very special guest is Stephanie Barrett, and she is my friend and colleague musician, and she is also a health and wellness coach. So she has her own business also. And so we're going to learn a little bit about her and talk a little bit about that and how that came about. And hopefully, if you're listening to this live or on the replay, you can let us know that you're here, and you can let us know by commenting, liking, share, asking us questions. We can come back later and answer, even if you're not here for the initial live. So we'll come check back, and if I see something that she needs to answer, we'll get back to you. So think of your questions. Give us questions. We're happy to answer anything. And so I just want to start by saying we met performing, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So you reminded me it was a church orchestra.
Right.
And I sort of knew that, but I knew exactly the minute that you said that. So we're welcoming Stephanie. And then speaking of health and wellness, we then saw each other again at the gym, back when gyms were open.
I know, right? Yep.
So I'm not quite ready to go back to one at the moment, but some of the things that you're going to talk about will kind of remedies that situation a little bit, might help somebody else out. So
that's right.
So let's get started. So we met playing, and then, but you're a musician, so obviously you went to college and you studied music. So can you give us like a little bit of your background so people kind of know who you are, if they don't already?
So I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I went to school at Loyola University, New Orleans. And it was actually initially a music therapy major. I spent 3 years doing that. I did 3 different practicums. I was focused on geriatrics. And then the summer before my last year of school, I said, I don't think I want to do this. What I really wanted to do is actually what I've ended up doing. I wanted to teach private lessons. And so I changed my major, which should have been to flute performance. However, there was one class that I couldn't take that I needed because I hadn't taken the prerequisite for it yet. So my degree actually reads a Bachelor of Music with Elective Studies.
Okay.
And, yep.
But you basically did everything as a flute performance major.
I did both recitals. I have everything but that 1 2-credit class.
Okay. And we talked about, that's crazy. I mean, like, that's crazy, like one thing and you can't get the title on your degree. I mean, it's technicalities sometimes are a challenge and don't necessarily reflect the work that we've done. And I mean, that's obviously one of it, but you were doing music therapy, which we talked about before. And I find that interesting because we seem to have a lot in common, because when I went to my bachelor's degree, I didn't start as that, but I found the school because of that, because it was interesting to me. But then, like you, it wasn't quite what I had expected. So I was a performance major and I stayed that way. But like similar to you, I mean, because you actually did a lot of work in the therapy.
Quite a bit. Yeah, I did.
And so, do you ever want to go back to?
Not at all. Not at all. As a 17, 18-year-old thinking about what I wanted to do in school, I thought somehow that doing therapy, I would get a better job or be assured a job more than performance. But, looking back, I'm so glad I did it the way I did it, because I love what I do. I wouldn't change a thing.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. And I mean, it's a really, I think it's a very rewarding job. It can be a very rewarding job doing therapy, but I think it's a very mentally challenging job too. So, I mean, it sounds like it could be stressful depending on the type of situation you're working with. And I find that teaching can be that way too, but like, I sort of know how to maneuver around that a little bit more. I guess that's what you go to school for, but
yeah, I was never worried about the stress of doing therapy. The big emphasis in music therapy is that it really is therapy first and music second. And I came to the conclusion that I wanted music to be first.
Yeah.
And, especially with my background, I feel like I still help a lot of kids.
Yeah.
If they're struggling with different things emotionally but I don't make that the emphasis of the lesson. Obviously, the emphasis is still to teach music.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you probably, because you have that background, I bet it's helpful in teaching.
Actually, I didn't tell you this when we were talking before, but one of the first things that happened when I moved out here was I got a call from a mom who had a 5-year-old little boy who was moderately to severely autistic. And she said, "Can you work with him?" And I actually ended up working with this little boy for years. I want to say 3 or 4 years or more. It was quite a few years ago now. But she started referring me to her friends in the community because of the work that we were doing. And that was all supported by the background that I had in therapy. And I had to tell everyone, because you have to put the disclaimer on there, I'm not a therapist.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So then when you finished school, you were in New Orleans, right? And you came out, you're here in LA now. We're both in Southern California.
That's right.
You came out here, and how did that happen? Tell the story about
that. My good friends in college were from California. They were from Northern California, the Bay Area.
Yay.
And they told me repeatedly through college that there was no place like New Orleans, and that the rest of the country was very different, and that I had to go experience it to see what other places were like. And
you were young, so yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Yeah. I love exploring and I love learning, and I really took that to heart, that I wanted to go on an adventure. And so I was on a plane the day after I graduated from college. I did my college graduation. I don't remember what day, probably, I don't know, a Saturday, and was on a plane the next day coming out here to look around and see if it was where I wanted to live and find an apartment. And then moved here 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow. That's almost crazy, right? Like, you just moved and hope for the best.
Right?
You can only do that when you're young, though. I think, unless you're really brave, I guess.
I think I don't have a lot of fear.
That's good. Well, you're in the right business. If you have fear as a musician, I think that's a setback, actually.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm sure it's quite helpful for you in a lot of ways. Well, so that's good. So you came out here, and then so we've talked a little bit about like how your current business and so forth, you were doing it also because you became a mom, right? And so yeah, as a parent, it's with young kids, it's hard to work outside the house a lot, especially if you don't have a lot of help necessarily right near you. And I can relate to that. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you came into doing what you're doing now after you moved out?
Yeah. So I didn't actually begin all of this to become a coach and help other people. I really started it as my own journey. And it was, I started because I was gaining a lot of weight during my pregnancy with Ryan, my second little boy. And I needed something that was going to help me get that under control. And so I joined Beachbody and started using their container system, which is one of their nutrition programs. And the next month when I saw my doctor, she said, wow, this is incredible. I don't know what you're doing. The baby's gained the right amount of weight, but you haven't gained any weight at all.
And so this was with your second pregnancy, right?
Second. Okay. That's right. And then the baby was born, and he was born with a VSD, which is ventricular septum disorder. It's a hole between the ventricles in his heart. And his was big enough that by the time he was 4 months old, he was actually in heart failure.
Oh, wow.
And we knew from the time he was born. We didn't know, first of all, before he was born. We found out in the hospital. One of the pediatricians heard it. But we knew from the time we left the hospital that he was going to need this surgery. And they were trying to push it to 6 months, and we didn't make it because he was in heart failure at 4 months. So at that point, they said, we don't want to alarm you, but we need to do it as soon as we can, start making arrangements. And so he ended up having his surgery at more like 5.5 months. And from the time he came out of the room, everyone said that he was the poster child for heart surgery. Amazing. I know. Yeah. Within hours, they were like, he's doing incredible.
Wow, that's awesome.
I know. But as a result of all of those things, when he was in his early infancy, I didn't want to leave him in case I needed to bring him to the ER. I didn't want to trust anyone else to have to make that decision, or even, have anyone else have to make that decision. And so I wasn't going out a whole lot. That was when I started doing the workouts that accompanied the nutrition program, because I was looking for ways to stay home.
Yeah.
And he had his surgery, and then there was more staying home, because he was not your typical 6-month-old baby who could do all of the things that the other kids could do. He went through a lot of therapies, and he didn't start walking until he was almost 16 months old.
Okay.
Idea. And he couldn't eat like a normal baby could. He would gag on the food because he didn't have the core strength and things like that. So being able to have these fitness programs where I could still do things and I could do them when I could do them was really a blessing to me.
You didn't have to follow some other person's schedule, and you could just pop in whichever workout in their program you were doing, right? I mean, that's how it works, right? Like you can log in to whatever one you want, whenever you want.
That's right. And you pick whichever one, fits your schedule for that day. There were plenty of days where I would get through 10 minutes of it and need to stop and go do something and then come back. And, some days I could finish a 30-minute programs and some days I couldn't, but at least the option was there, because I definitely know I was going to a gym.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially right now, because, I think gyms some of them were opening recently, and they're closed again, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And just with the pandemic issues and everything else. And I don't think even when they were open that everybody was ready to go back. And a lot of people are looking online for things to do. And what, I guess, like in relation to that, I guess one of my questions is what did you tell people about that particular part of the program, since that seems like right now that would be quite popular, right, with everything going on? What is your favorite part, other than being able to do it at home at your convenience? Is there something else more about it that you want to share that you like? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. The convenience is definitely up there.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that makes these programs really special, and something that I latched onto right away, is that the trainers who have designed them and put all of the work into them are also standing there the whole time telling you, you can do this.
Supportive, encouraging
things that you'll start to hear in your head when you're not working out, when something else gets difficult. And then you're like, oh, I can do this. I've done other hard things, and they really drill that as a community, I think.
So it's like changing your mental talk.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of, okay, it's only 10 more seconds. You can do anything for 10 seconds. You've got this. That was really life-changing for me, because early on I would quit when things got hard. It was hard.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
Right.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's a different way in that I can push through things too,
I think a lot of musicians and creative people are pretty resilient, but sometimes we don't always give ourselves enough credit, because there's so much in the industry that you get critiqued with every little thing, and you have to kind of push through it. And so learning to do that with other things, though, I think is a whole different thing. It doesn't need to be, but I think it can be in it. What do you think? I mean, it sounds like you've experienced that. So when you got overwhelmed, I mean, how did this kind of help to train your mental thinking with that? Or is that okay?
Very much. I started to look at other parts of my life and go, well, if I can do this here, then I can probably do this in other places. And so I started to ask myself, where were the places in my life that I really wanted change, and what systems I could implement to create that change. And then I finally had the confidence to follow through with it. Okay.
And so when you started becoming more successful, like first you were kind of successful because you were doing the nutrition program, right? And then you felt good about that, right? And then you started doing the exercise portion of it, and you were able to complete more of that than you thought. And is that when you started thinking, oh, maybe I should be one of the coaches? Or how did you decide to not just be using the program, but go from using it to coaching people?
Honestly, for me, it was a matter of confidence again. I really admire a lot of the other coaches in my community, especially my own coach right now. These people are incredibly consistent. They are incredibly happy in their lives. That's not to say that they don't have their hard days, but they are resilient when they have a hard day. And I wanted to be like that too. And so I started looking at how I could make that happen. And I have to tell you, I dabbled in coaching for years before I decided to really commit to it. And the difference for me was confidence. It finally hit a point where I was like, not only do I want to do this, I can do this. I know I can do this.
And you had coached other things, right? Because you teach music and different, not just flute, right? But like piano and
I teach piano. That's right. Yeah.
And then you were also teaching ice skating. Right?
I did. That's right.
So right. You're a musician and an athlete too, which is kind of awesome.
The big difference was that with Beachbody coaching, you really have to present the opportunity to people. And I didn't have the confidence in myself to be reaching out to people and saying, I have this amazing opportunity. I think you'll think it's amazing too. I
think that's something with this kind of business of direct marketing type businesses, that people can read your emotions. Like if you feel like you're being fake, they can see that. If you feel genuine, they can see that. So it is. I've learned that too, doing other stuff similar, right? So just how you're thinking about it and what you believe is an important key to master, which can be difficult.
And I had also struggled with consistency up until a few months ago. And I think, again, a lot of that was confidence. I'm doing this. I can't possibly keep it up. Right. And so then I would quit on myself. And it was this vicious cycle of, well, if I'm quitting on myself, then how can I tell other people this is so great when I can't even keep it up myself? And then back the beginning of the year, pretty much, I decided that I just wasn't going to quit on myself anymore. I was going to really give it my all and go for it every day, and not just in Beachbody, but also practicing my flute and other things that the more you develop consistency with, the better they get, obviously.
Yeah.
That was the point where I really felt like I could tell other people, this really is it's incredible products. It's incredible, an incredible community of people. And, I wholeheartedly believe in it. And I think you should join me.
I definitely am interested in the fitness part of it, because not being able to go to a gym is like such a huge thing. But so for me, or somebody that has had like injuries, that might say like, well, I don't know if I can do this because it's like a program and like I have this injury or that injury. What would you tell them? Because like for me, for example, I've been in, as you know, quite a few car accidents since moving out here to LA.
I think that there are actually very few people, from the amount of people that I've talked to, I think there are very few people who don't have some kind of extenuating circumstance.
Okay.
Either people who have a previous injury or people who have a lot of weight to lose, or people who, just they're pressed for time or things like that. I would say you have to do something and you have to modify it.
Okay. And that program makes it easy to put modifications in everything. Is that?
Most of the programs actually offer a modifier. There's one person on the screen who's modifying every exercise.
Cool.
Yeah, that is presented. It's really cool. There's one program that I can think of right now that has 2 modifiers.
Wow.
Like the full level, and then the first modifier. And then if you can't do that, there's a modifier for the modifier.
Oh, wow. So what you're saying is somebody with injuries should be able to do something, and it shouldn't prevent you from wanting to try this program, in other words.
I think everybody can do something.
Okay.
It was really interesting because when I finally felt like everything was in order and I could really go for it 100%, I sprained my ankle.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing you in a boot.
That's right.
Videos.
I thought it was fractured. I was in a ton of pain. It sprained, and I have Achilles tendonitis on top of it, and it was causing shin splints. And in the past, that would have been something, and I know a lot of other people, they go, you know, oh, again, okay, well, I'm just going to have to wait. But this time, I decided to do something different, and I'm so glad I did, because it's really, I feel, changed my life in a lot of ways for the better. This time, I didn't say I was going to quit, or I was going to wait, or I was going to rest. I rested my ankle, but I still had a whole lot of me that could do stuff.
Okay, yeah, so you were still able to do certain things in the programs.
Right. So I picked a program that was really mostly upper body, and the lower body were completely out of it. For the first 2 weeks, I didn't do anything that wasn't sitting down on my bottom. And then I picked some stretching programs that allowed me to stretch as much as I could without injuring the ankle more. But feeling like, you know, it's an ankle. I still have this whole rest of me that I need to take care of.
Right.
And so I'm going to find a way to do that. And that was really,
it's pretty telling, though, I think, that you had an ankle injury and there was still enough programs that you could actually sit and still do exercises. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like with a lot of much older people, too, that have lost a lot of mobility and maybe need to sit and do exercises, they would still be able to do some of this, in other words.
They would still be able to do something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I firmly believe that the stronger you make your body, the more mobility you're going to have.
Yeah.
You know, increasing. I had a skating student years ago. He was a man. I think he turned 50 while we were doing lessons together. He was a beginner when he started, and he had knee issues. He had one knee that really acted up on him. And through skating, he was able to strengthen the muscles around his knee enough that his knee issue actually went away.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you're coaching people through this program, you have a kind of unique experience to share, because you've learned skating and taught people skating. So you have this other aspect. And then too, with therapy, because you have done a little bit of the program for music therapy, even though you didn't decide to become a music therapist. So I think you have a unique perspective in doing this, and you kind of found your hidden talent for your other business or your other career outside of just being a musician and a music teacher and performer and everything. And so that's kind of like why I like doing this, these talks and these interviews too, because there's so many other people who probably have maybe it's similar experiences as you, or just with something else that they could make into their own business or program or coaching, something else. So if you're tuning in now live or on the replay, feel free to ask us questions. Ask Stephanie a question and we'll get back to you. This is going to stay up. So even if you're not asking now and you're asking later, you can type hashtag replay. Let us know you're watching on the replay. You can like, share, hearts. We like that kind of thing. It helps our Facebook community know that we're here and that we're sharing value with you. Because the point of this is to give a shout out to Stephanie, but also just hopefully inspire somebody else. But getting back to some of the things that you were doing, I mean, because you were also telling me that while you were doing this, you had discovered you had your own physical ailment, yet you're still able to do all these things.
I did. I joined Beachbody in 2014, and in 2017, I took a fall that landed me in the ER, and because my back was in excruciating pain, they did back x-rays, and I found out that I have a moderate scoliosis, which is kind of a big deal.
I mean, it's so crazy because you didn't even realize that you had it.
I didn't, I knew was that I had a funky rib cage. I could feel my left rib sticks out a lot from my right rib. And I've always felt that, when I try to lay on my stomach to sleep, it's very uncomfortable. But I didn't know that meant that I had a curve in my spine.
That's so great. And so has this been able to like correct some of that, some of the things you've been able to do exercises with?
It's really been amazing. When I started documenting it, really about a year after I found out that I had it, I started taking pictures and documenting it. My spine has straightened so much. It's been incredible.
And you haven't gone to physical therapy or anything. You've just been doing these.
That's right. Yeah.
See, that's amazing. I mean, that's really amazing. I think just because I've been to physical therapy.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, we can help you, but you still have to do exercises and keep doing things because you have to keep mobile, like you're saying, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. And so go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say there's a core component to almost every program that Beachbody offers. And really strengthening your core is probably the best thing you can do for yourself, because that's basically your powerhouse that runs the rest of your body, right?
Has that helped you with your flute playing at all, do you think? Like with air?
Honestly, no.
No. Okay. So it's
not. I would like to say yes. No.
Okay.
I've never found that.
I was just wondering, because if you said your ribs were like out of alignment or something, like it can help. I mean, it can be painful to be playing possibly, but you didn't have that issue.
Well, but let me also say, I don't have any pain.
Oh.
I know a lot of people that have pain as older adults, and I do not experience any pain.
And I think that's important for musicians too, to find some kind of program that's going to help them, because there's so many injuries as players,
Right.
And I mean, if there's something like, it sounds like there's a little bit for everybody in this program, from what you're telling me. So
I think so, because we have everything from yoga to dance programs to hardcore weightlifting programs, cardio. It's all anything that you could possibly be interested in.
That's cool.
Program. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you tell somebody if they were searching for something, like as a musician or a creative person that's, not working right now? And I mean, if they were looking for something and, you have this to offer them, what would you tell them? I mean, because I know a lot of people are searching and they maybe don't even know what they want to do or what to do. But
this is advice that I don't know where I got it from. I do a lot of personal development type things, so I can't point you to a book, but every once in a while I sit down and I write out what I would want my life to look like if I were living my perfect life, and all of the things that I would want to be in it. And to me, that's the best thing that you can do, because then you have a goal in front of you and you start working towards it.
So your vision, create your own vision.
Right. Yeah, definitely a vision of what you would like your life to look like. And, if you were going to have your perfect day from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, what would you be doing during that time? right?
Good.
And,
Yeah. That's
and
good.
I think that's really how you find what you want to make money doing, because the money is a byproduct of your passion and your, what you give to the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you found a good balance, because you're still doing music and you're still doing, I mean, maybe we aren't performing live right now, but you're still teaching online, right? And different things involved in music, and you're still able to do this as another business, and it's something you're passionate about now, obviously, because it's helped you. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right. It does take a lot of work. I teach almost every day. I practice almost every day. I would like to say that's every day.
It's hard right now, I think. It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and as a parent too, and you have young kids. She has young kids at home, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, as
7.5.
7.5 and sorry?
5.5.
5.5. They're good ages, though. They're good ages.
I think I met you when your boys were around the age that mine are now.
Yeah.
Just to throw it out there.
We have a preteen and a teen now.
I know.
Yeah. It's shall we say, entertaining.
I'm not looking forward to it.
It's good. There's good things, but like any age, there's always challenges. And so, I mean, I just think like if you're home and you're the main one that's home with them most of the time and doing all the stuff that, that moms typically end up doing, I just think it's easy to get distracted, and it's really hard to stay focused. And you seem like you're doing a really good job at that with so many different facets of things that you're doing in both businesses. And I think that's amazing. Like, you're a good role model for somebody that's looking, Yeah.
It still comes back down to, if I had my perfect day, what would I fill it with? And then I try to fill my days with that every single day.
Yeah. I wish somebody had told me that like a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like, I always had ideas of things, but really getting focused on.
And then, the other thing actually is you need to check yourself with your excuses, because for the longest time, I didn't think I had time to do everything that I'm doing. And I thought, if I were working on something, that I was somehow taking away from my kids. And I mean, let's be honest, they don't want to play with me. I try to do them and they're like, what are you doing, Mom? But, once I decided to have a little bit of tunnel vision and just stick with, this is how things are going to be, and this is what we're doing today, everything just started to fall into place. And my kids are happy as can be. They're not wanting for anything. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, so finding your focus, I mean, I think that applies to pretty much anything that you want in life and whatever you are trying to accomplish. And can you just tell me what your favorite things are about this Beachbody business that you have now? Because if somebody's searching for something, like maybe something like this is something that they decide they want to do. So if you share.
Yeah. So it's a couple of things. I love that part of this business is actually working on myself. So part of my responsibility as a coach is to make sure that I'm working out and that I'm eating well and that I'm living the lifestyle that I'm representing. Right. And to me, that's just amazing, because all of those things are things that are going to contribute to my happiness and my family's happiness. And longevity too.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's part of the business. It's something that I need to do to be good for other people.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of my favorite things. The other thing I love is I love helping people. I love, you know, being a cheerleader, being an inspiration for people. I love, my favorite thing is when I get a text and somebody says, you know, I've lost a couple of pounds, or I feel really good today because I ate well. You know, that lights me up like you wouldn't believe.
That's great. Yeah, that would be good. I mean, I think a lot of people might like it more than they realize. They got focused in the right direction, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And, you know, just realizing that it's an opportunity, you know, it's an opportunity to do something good for yourself and to have that trickle down to your family and your friends and other people that you're influencing in your life.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, if you're happy, your family's going to be happier, right?
Yeah.
The mom has to be happy for the most part.
Oh yeah. I can tell you when I'm happy, my kids are definitely happier.
Yeah, for sure. I think.
Because when I'm not happy, it's more like, oh my gosh, you need to be quiet. Why are you doing that? Right?
Yeah. Go away.
Yeah. So somebody was just asking me, well, a lot of people ask me about homeschooling because you know,
right.
I don't know how you can do that. How do you always have your kids around? And
well, you're not doing everything online for them or at home or with school. I mean, you're guiding them some of the time. I mean, your kids are younger though, so you probably have to help them a lot more, but
well, but you know, a lot of people use school as a babysitter too, just to get the kids out of the house and away from them.
Yeah.
That's more what I'm talking about, just having them here all the time. And it comes back to, you know, when you're in a good mood, they don't bother you as much.
Yeah. Yeah, they can just sit and do whatever project they're working on or assignment or
right, yeah.
But you can also find more things that interest them that they want to learn about too, if you're doing, depending on how you're doing the homeschool, I think too, right? I mean, if you're doing homeschool, like for example, what we're going to end up doing is because we're in the district and we're, you know, they're going to be in their classes. That's not the same.
I do.
Yeah, no, that's not the same. That's not what you're talking about.
Right. That's not it. I think in a homeschooler's opinion, that's not homeschool.
No, and I agree. It's not homeschool. It's just schooling at home online.
Right. You know? Yeah. The majority of our learning experience actually happens outside of the home. You know, we go on adventures. We go do things every day. Now that was greatly impacted by...
Yeah, I just found another job for you. You can coach people on you know, methods and ways to use homeschooling and with your kids. You know, if somebody has questions, I mean, obviously you have all these resources, so you could be, you know, some kind of like informational coach or something. I mean, you could do a webinar or something on it. I mean, people would probably pay you to go hear you talk about that. I guarantee it.
I should go live on Facebook. Thank you for the idea. I should. I probably will do that. People ask me about it all the time.
I mean, like, we'll talk some more because I have some thoughts and
yeah.
And I mean, and you're so, and I have to say, like, I mean, you guys, if you don't follow her on Facebook, you should check it out. Like, I just like seeing your post about, like, she shows what she's doing today, like as far as like her exercises and stuff. And it's like, oh my God, how do you bend like that or whatever? But I'm always like, But it's always inspiring. Like, okay, I need to exercise today. I just look at you and I'm like, I know I need to stretch today. Oh my God, look at you stretch. You're just like, it's amazing.
I've improved in my bendy state so much since my ankle sprain, because that was something that I could do, right? When I couldn't put weight on my ankle.
Yeah. So just watching her post is kind of inspirational. So I can imagine working with you as a coach would be the same.
And I have to tell you, all of those posts go in my stories. So if anyone wants to find those, that's where they are.
Yeah. And so if you're looking for information about her program, Beachbody or whatever, you can, she's on Facebook, Stephanie Barrett, and you can contact her. And if you have trouble finding her or something, just personal message me on this page and I'll connect you. It's no problem at all. So, do you have anything else to share? I feel like we've talked about a lot of different things today. We could probably.
Yeah, right. I could talk all day. No, I think that gives the main overview. I think my closing thought would be that I believe that everyone is capable of more than they think they are. And that not only do you have to try, but you have to commit to doing things, because the trying is really uncomfortable. It's that extra step of being committed and working through the discomfort that's going to really take you somewhere.
That's good advice. Well, I think with that, we're going to end it today. And just stay tuned, everybody, because every Friday I should be doing something. Next Friday, I think we're going to have to start a half an hour later. My interview is going to be Will Alvarado, and we're going to just chat a little bit about some music and business and things like that. And he does all kinds of teaching and stuff, and he's learned like a gazillion instruments, like all the band directors have to do and stuff. And he's just got a lot of teaching and playing information. And so we're going to chat next week, probably at 11:30. So tune in, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for joining us live. Those that popped in for a minute, thank you. If you're joining us on the replay, let me know, #replay. Share, like, even if it's after the fact on the replay. Ask us a question. Ask Stephanie. Contact me if you're not sure. You can find her. We'll connect. I'll connect you guys up. Everybody, have an amazing day and listen to some great music today. Bye.